How's it going, guys? Hope you guys had a great week. So it's that time of the month again, guys. So it is time for me to talk about the top 5 games coming out in September. So let's get straight into this. So the first game coming out on September the 5th is an exclusive to the PlayStation 4, and that is Knacked 2 by Japan Studios. Now, this is the sequel to the original launch title for the PS4, Knacked, which came out in 2013. That game had a lot of mixed reactions to it. Well, with Knacked 2, it looks like the developers have tried to listen to the feedback from fans and are obviously trying to improve the game. There is a lot now about this game that looks really fun and really interesting. So it is designed to be played completely cooperatively. Of course, you can play it single player, but I think with this game you'll get more enjoyment out of it simply because of the co-op elements with regards to sort of platforming and also combat. There is a lot of cooperative combat and a lot of new combat moves introduced in the game which look really great. So when you play with your friend, if you punch them, it creates certain moves. So for example, they have like this machine gun move which looks really good, a body slam when you body slam on your partner, which causes like an area of effect damage. You can also get power-ups which give you some really sweet looking moves and swords and that kind of thing. Knacked can now do an air spin which will allow you to cover extra distances. You can also shrink by shedding your different sort of parts and pieces and use this to navigate the world. So it looks fun. It's a cross between a platformer and an action adventure game as well. There is going to be more platforming elements than in the previous game, and the developers have said that they've introduced 3 difficulty levels, so you can now control the difficulty game. If you pick it on easy mode, as you're playing through the levels, you actually get given different paths of difficulty. So you could choose to go down one path, which is a bit more challenging in terms of platforming, but if you wanted, you could choose to go down the easier path. And that's for people that criticized the original game, where they said that parts of the game were just so simplistic and so easy that they were downright boring, and other parts of it were so ridiculously difficult that they became frustrated. So it's the developers' way of giving the gamers a little bit of a say on what kind of game they want. But that is Knacked 2 coming out on September 5th, which looks interesting. The second game to come out is on September the 8th, and that is Destiny 2, which is coming out on the PS4 and the Xbox One in September. And then later, I think in November on the PC. I think it's November. I might have got that wrong. But for those of you that don't know, this is from Bungie, and it's the sequel to the heavily popular and mostly well-received original Destiny. Now, there were some criticisms made of the original game. Mostly my major issue with it was the story or lack thereof. And the developers have said that there are a lot of new improvements and new changes to the game that are going to be welcome additions for fans of the original game, for players that played right from the beginning. But for anybody picking up the game for the first time, they're going to be able to enjoy this. So there is going to be a new story. Bungie have said there are going to be more cinematics in this game than there were in the previous game. A lot more in line with sort of the Taken King, and that can only be a good thing. So the basic story, the new villain is Dominus Ghaul, who is the leader of the Red Legion, a military sect in the Cabal. And at the beginning of the game, suffice it to say, shit happens, things go wrong, and Ghaul ends up destroying the tower and draining the power of the Traveller, which basically means that all the Guardians lose their light and their weapons and ability, and everything gets destroyed, and the Guardians become fragmented. And it's your job in the game to basically, I guess, reunite the Guardians, help the different factions, and obviously take back the tower or defeat Ghaul. Now, what I like about from the looks of the game and the cinematics in the story is that it looks like we're going to get to actually see a little bit more of about the characters and their motivations. So Cade 6, Commander Savala and Ikora, who represent the different classes of Guardians, are going to play a bigger role hopefully in this game. There are new worlds that you can explore, so these have been confirmed: Titan, Nessus, Io, and the European Dead Zone as well. There is a new social hub because obviously the tower has been destroyed, and this is called the Farm. Bungie have promised that this is much bigger than the original tower in Destiny 1 and can actually support 26 players at the same time on the same server. The farm itself is also going to have a lot of little things in it, so you can play, I think, like football I saw, and there's little things that you can explore and little puzzles and just little references and things like that. There are new Crucible maps, and the Crucible has also been updated, so now it is 4v4, and this means that matches are going to be much more tactically based, because obviously if you lose 2 or 3 of your allies, then that's going to massively affect the way that matches are going to shift. There are going to be some new game modes as well, so survival, which is where you have 8 lives and you go down to sort of sudden death kind of thing, and also countdown, which is about planting a bomb and staying with that bomb until it explodes, or defusing enemy bombs, that kind of thing. So that looks fun as well. The 3 classes are back: Titan, Warlock and Hunter, but they now have new subclasses. So the Titan has a Void Shield, the Warlock has the amazing looking Dawn Blade, and I got hands on with that and it was great, and the Hunter has the Arc Strider, sort of like a bow staff kind of ability, which looks great. There's also a new weapon system as well, so they're trying to revamp and improve the weapon systems, and weapons are now kinetic, energy and power based. Clans have been introduced as well, and something called guided games as well, and that's to help players that struggle to find enough people to play with for things like raids and nightfall strikes and that kind of thing. So that's going to be great, that you're going to be able to go and find particular clans and play with people that maybe you like the sound of, or they sound really, really cool. The game is much more about exploration, and we can see that in 2 new introductions, which is something called Lost Sectors, which are kind of like dungeon based areas in the European Dead Zone. We've seen some of them, and also Adventures, which are sort of mini story based side missions with NPCs that actually have character and backstory, and you get to learn more about the lore from these adventures, the lore of the world and what's going on, rather than having to read them in sort of online cards and that kind of thing. So Destiny 2 looks good. A lot of improvements look great, and you know, it has got me interested. And I just didn't like what was done with the original advertising and the original sort of marketing scheme for the first Destiny, where they charge full price for DLC content. So I'm going to wait to see what they're doing with it, and what reviews are saying and what people are saying about it before I decide to pick up the game. But that is coming out anyway in September 8th for those of you that are interested. The third game coming out on September the 15th is Metroid Samus Returns on the 3DS. Now this can be played in both 2D and 3D, and it is a remake of the original Metroid 2 Samus Returns on the original Game Boy. It has had a huge graphical upgrade. The game looks beautiful, it looks great. The use of the dual screen with the 3DS as well looks brilliant in terms of being able to see your map, and you can place pointers on there for different icons for different areas in the map that are of interest to you or that you want to come back to. Samus also now has some new moves, so you can actually aim to shoot in a 360-degree arc, which sounds great. They have something called a melee counter as well, which looks like a brilliant defensive move. The morph ball is back, weapons, beams, rockets, all those things that we love about Metroid are back. Now there are going to be some new enemies and also some new bosses in the game, but these are still based on the original, so they will be familiar to fans of the original series, but they've been slightly updated and slightly revamped for the new game. But if you are a fan of the Metroid series, then definitely this is probably a game that you're going to be looking to pick up. And hell, if you've even played the original Metroid 2, you might want to pick it up just to relive those moments in sort of an updated 2017 version. But Metroid Samus Returns, that is coming out on September the 15th. The fourth game to come out is Dishonored Death of the Outsider, coming out on September 15th, and it's going to be available on the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. This is from Arcane Studios, and it's the third game in the Dishonored series. Now, it is not DLC, just to confirm that with you. It is a standalone game, very much in a similar fashion to Uncharted The Lost Legacy, and it is a sequel to Dishonored 2, and it's actually set a couple of months after the end of the events of Dishonored 2, and players will get to play as Billy Lurk, otherwise known as Megan Foster, at the end of Dishonored 2, and she basically returns to Karnaca and reunites with her mentor, the legendary assassin Droud, and your goal basically is to take down the main villain known as the Outsider. Now, it looks really cool. It looks just as good as the original Dishonored games, and if you've played them, then this is probably a game that you're going to want to pick up. The really cool thing with Billy Lurk is that she does have some new void powers that do make her very, very different, her playstyle very different to Corvo or Emily in Dishonored 2, so that definitely will be interesting. But yeah, Dishonored Death of the Outsider looks really good. And finally, rounding out the 5 games coming out in September is Cuphead, which will be available exclusively on the PC and Xbox One, and that is coming out on September 29th. Now, this is a game that I think I'm definitely going to buy this month, simply because I don't have many games. I have an Xbox One, and I simply haven't had a reason to buy any of the games coming out on it. There really hasn't been anything that's interested me. The only games that do interest me were Crackdown 3 and also Sea of Thieves, but they're not coming out to 2018. So really, Cuphead's the only game coming out this year that actually interests me, and there are a few reasons why it looks interesting. I absolutely love the art style. It's amazing, it's unique, and it reminds me heavily of like the original sort of Mickey Mouse 1920s cartoon, Steamboat Willie, and I just love the art style. I love the soundtrack. I think it looks great. I love the whole idea of a 2-player co-op. It's basically a platform run and gun kind of shooter game, and from what I've seen of it, the soundtrack looks great. The gameplay looks fun, it looks challenging, and even some of the boss fights look great too. So Dante and I will definitely be picking up that game at the end of this month, and we'll probably bring you some videos showing a little bit of cooperative play for you guys to see and to check out. But those are the games coming out in September. Those are the top 5 games. So it hasn't covered everything coming out in September, but those were the 5 games that I thought looked the most interesting. I'm sure I've missed some things off of the list, so if I have missed anything, please share in the comment section below. Please let me know what you think of these games, what games you're looking forward to coming out in September, and if there is going to be anything that you're going to buy this month, or anything that you're looking forward to coming out in the future. Anyway, hope you guys have a great weekend. Take care, and as always, happy gaming.